For decades, Iran was the crown jewel of American interests in the Middle East. A bastion of westernization, wealth, and absolute imperial power. Iran was the island of stability. Its oil fueled the West, and its military, equipped with the latest American jets, guarded the Persian Gulf. But beneath the surface of modern skyscrapers and oil wealth, a storm was gathering. A divide between the elite and the traditional masses. In 1979, the dam broke. Millions took to the streets in a revolution that surprised the world and paralyzed the White House. Then came the point of no return. On November 4, 1979, Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. 52 Americans were taken hostage. For 444 days, the world watched as the once great alliance turned into a bitter blood feud. In America, the crisis felt like a national humiliation. It broke a presidency and scarred the American psyche for a generation. The resulting war lasted 8 years. It was a brutal meat grinder that forced the new Islamic Republic to militarize every part of its society. Iran emerged from the war broken but defiant. The trauma of the 1980s created a nation that believed it was surrounded by enemies. The stage was set. The ally was dead. The enemy was born. And the long shadow of 1979 was about to cover the entire 21st century. To survive a world of enemies, Iran realized it didn't need to defeat America in a direct war. It just needed to make every corner of the Middle East a trap. The laboratory for this strategy was Lebanon. In the chaos of a civil war, Iran's Revolutionary Guard helped forge a new power, Hezbollah. This was the birth of the Shia Crescent. A bridge of influence stretching across the heart of the Arab world, cutting through American interests. In 1983, a truck bomb killed 241 American servicemen in Beirut. It was a brutal message: the Americans were no longer welcome in the neighborhood. Washington struggled to respond. How do you fight an enemy that has no return address? An enemy that hides in the shadows of others? Iran also mastered the tanker war. Small, fast boats swarming massive giants. They learned that the world's economy was a fragile vein they could cut at any time. But as the 21st century dawned, America prepared to return to the Middle East with a vengeance. And Iran was right in the crosshairs. The invasion of Iraq in 2003 removed Iran's greatest rival, Saddam Hussein. But it also put the American military right on Iran's doorstep. The forever war had begun. And Iran was the invisible hand pulling the strings, bleeding America without ever firing a single official shot. By 2010, the Iranian web covered Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. But while they fought in the shadows, another race was happening in the mountains. The nuclear race. If Iran couldn't win with numbers, they would win with the ultimate deterrent. And the world was about to hold its breath. Buried deep beneath layers of concrete and steel, Iran's nuclear dream was spinning into reality. Thousands of centrifuges, working in total silence from the world. For Washington and Tel Aviv, a nuclear Iran was a red line. But how do you stop a program hidden inside a mountain without starting World War III? The answer was the world's first digital weapon, Stuxnet. A cyber virus designed to do what bombs couldn't: sabotage the machines from the inside. It was a ghost in the machine. Without a single explosion heard on the surface, nearly 1,000 centrifuges tore themselves apart. But the shadow war wasn't just digital. Across Tehran, Iran's top nuclear scientists began to die in mysterious bombings and assassinations. Then came the sanctions. A financial wall was built around the country, designed to starve the regime into submission. The Iranian rial collapsed. Ordinary Iranians paid the price. But the regime didn't blink. They used the pressure to fuel their defiance, turning the struggle into a national cause. In 2015, a breakthrough. The JCPOA, the nuclear deal. For a moment, it seemed like the forever war had been avoided through a pen. The streets of Tehran celebrated. They thought the world was opening up. But in Washington, a new storm was brewing. 2018, America withdraws. The deal was dead. The maximum pressure campaign returned, and with it, the threat of total war. Iran responded by restarting its centrifuges and showcasing its missile silos. The era of diplomacy was over, the era of the brink had returned. Drones, tankers, and secret bases. The two nations were playing a game of chicken where neither side was willing to blink first. January 2020. The unthinkable happened. A U.S. drone strike at Baghdad airport killed Iran's most powerful commander, Qasem Soleimani. Iran vowed harsh revenge. For a few days, the world held its breath, waiting for the start of the next great war. But why hasn't it happened yet? Why hasn't the war started? To understand that, we must look at the fortress itself. If you want to understand why Iran hasn't been invaded, look at its borders. This isn't the flat deserts of Iraq. This is a fortress made of stone. Iran is a geographic nightmare for any invader. It is a massive plateau, surrounded by mountain ranges that act like natural city walls. To reach the heart of Iran, an army must climb thousands of feet through narrow passes, perfect kill zones for ambushes and guerrillas. And Iran has used this geography well. They have built missile cities, vast underground bases hidden deep within the bedrock, immune to most airstrikes. Then, there is the jugular vein of the world economy, the Strait of Hormuz. A narrow choke point through which 20% of the world's oil flows. Iran's navy is designed for swarm tactics. Small, fast, and deadly. They can't beat a U.S. carrier in a fair fight, so they don't fight fair. In 2002, a U.S. war game called Millennium Challenge showed that these swarm tactics could sink an entire carrier battle group in minutes. It was a wake-up call. Iran doesn't need to win a war, they just need to make the cost of victory unacceptable. Beyond the mountains lies the Dasht-e Kaveh. A salt desert where temperatures reach 70 degrees Celsius. A graveyard for any army that dares to cross it. Combined with an advanced air defense network, Iran has turned its entire territory into a no-go zone for conventional forces. Iraq was flat and manageable. Iran is 4 times larger, with a population that is highly nationalistic and fiercely protective of its land. Invasions often unite a people against the outsider. In Iran, history shows that when the threat is external, the nation becomes a single, unbreakable fist. The cost of a war with Iran would dwarf Iraq and Afghanistan combined. It would be a forever war that could bankrupt the world's superpower. This is why the war hasn't started. It's a game of strategic stalemate where the stakes are the global economy and millions of lives. But as we move further into the 2020s, the pressures are reaching a breaking point. Is the fortress truly impenetrable, or is the clock just ticking? Iran's greatest weapon isn't a nuclear bomb, it's a network. A ring of fire composed of loyal proxies, ready to ignite at a moment's notice. In Lebanon, Hezbollah stands as a state within a state. They possess an arsenal of over 150,000 rockets, all pointed at the heart of Israel. Through Syria, Iran has built a land bridge to the Mediterranean. A supply line that allows them to move weapons and men across 1,000 miles of desert. In Yemen, the Houthis have become a strategic nightmare. Equipped with Iranian tech, they can shut down the Red Sea with a single button press. By arming the Houthis, Iran has gained a second choke point. If Hormuz is the front door, the Red Sea is the back door, and Iran holds both keys. And in Iraq, the very ground America fought for is now home to powerful militias that take their orders from Tehran, not Baghdad. The weapon of choice is the drone. Cheap, mass-produced, and hard to stop. Iran has become the supermarket of cheap air power for the world. They don't need $1 billion jet to cause chaos. $1,000 drone can overwhelm the most advanced defense systems on Earth. In 2019, an attack on Saudi oil facilities proved the concept. In an instant, 5% of the world's oil supply vanished. No army was needed. Tehran can now project power without a single Iranian soldier crossing a border. They have mastered the art of the ghost war. For the United States, this is a strategic nightmare. How do you win a war against an enemy that is everywhere, yet nowhere? The American public is tired. 2 decades of war in the desert have left us scars. Any move against Iran risks domestic political suicide. But as Iran gets closer to a nuclear breakout, the luxury of waiting is disappearing. The window for a peaceful solution is closing. The ring of fire is set. The proxies are ready. One miscalculation, one spark in the wrong place, and the Middle East will burn. Will it be another forever war? Or is the conflict already here, just hidden in plain sight? The answer lies in what happens next. The fortress of Iran looks impenetrable from the outside. But inside, the walls are beginning to crack. A new generation is rising, and they aren't afraid of the shadows. Woman, life, freedom. What began as a protest against a dress code turned into a fundamental challenge to the very soul of the Islamic Republic. The response was brutal. The regime knows that if it loses the streets, it loses everything. The security apparatus, the basage, was unleashed. Iran is a young country ruled by an old elite. Over 60% of its people are under the age of 30. They speak the language of the internet, not the revolution of 1979. Despite the internet shutdowns, they bypass the filters. They see the world outside, and the contrast with their own struggling economy is unbearable. Sanctions have crippled the middle class. Inflation has turned life savings into scraps of paper. For many, the choice is between survival and revolution. While billions are spent on missiles and regional proxies, the people at home wonder why they can no longer afford bread. The social contract is dead. But the IRGC isn't just a military, it's a massive business empire. They control the docks, the construction, the oil. They have everything to lose. The supreme leadership faces a succession crisis. When the current leader passes, will the system hold, or will it shatter into 1,000 pieces? The prisons are full of the nation's brightest minds. Students, journalists, and activists. But you can't imprison an idea whose time has come. This internal struggle is what Washington is banking on. Why invade if the regime might collapse under its own weight? But history is a dangerous teacher. Internal unrest often makes a regime more aggressive abroad to distract the people at home. The cracks are real. But a cracked fortress is often the most dangerous. It has nothing left to lose but its pride. If change doesn't come from the outside through war, it will eventually come from the inside. The question is, who survives the transition? The clock is ticking on the Iranian fortress. And the world is watching, waiting to see if it explodes out, or in. Inside the mountain of Fordo, the talk of diplomacy is a world away. Here, the hum of centrifuges is the only language that matters. For years, Iran stayed at the threshold. But now, they have pushed enrichment to 60%, just a short, technical hop away from weapons grade. This is the point of no return. Once the knowledge and material are there, no amount of bombing can unlearn a nuclear bomb. Washington fears the North Korea scenario, an Iran that endures any amount of pain until it has the one weapon that makes invasion impossible. In Israel, the threat is existential. For them, a nuclear Iran is not a policy problem, it is a second Holocaust in the making. To stop it, America has developed the bunker buster, a weapon designed to drill through mountains. But even this might not be enough. If Iran gets the bomb, the Middle East enters a new, terrifying age of nuclear proliferation. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, who is next? Iran calls it a deterrent. They say they don't want a war, but they are preparing for one that will end all wars. A strike on Iran's nuclear sites would trigger an immediate retaliatory firestorm. The ring of fire from Lebanon to Yemen would ignite. The global economy would follow. A war to stop the bomb could be just as catastrophic as the bomb itself. This is the ultimate stalemate. The clock is at 1 minute to midnight. Washington has run out of good options. Now, they are only left with bad and worse. Iran knows that as long as they are on the brink, they are safe from the fate of Libya or Iraq. The bomb is their ultimate insurance policy. If the forever war turns nuclear, there will be no winners. Only survivors of a world that was destroyed by pride and fear. But for now, the machines keep spinning. The technicians keep working. And the shadow of the mushroom cloud hangs over every negotiation. The point of no return is here. And the world is about to find out if deterrence still works in the 21st century. To understand Iran's defiance, you must understand its ego. This isn't just a 40-year-old republic, it is a 5,000-year-old civilization that refuses to be ignored. Long before the West was born, the Persian Empire was the world's first superpower. From the Mediterranean to the Indus, their word was law. This sense of greatness interrupted fuels their modern strategy. They don't want to just survive, they want to restore their spheres of influence. To Tehran, the struggle with America is just the latest chapter in a 2,500-year war between East and West. They have outlasted Rome, they plan to outlast Washington. They have successfully merged their Islamic faith with their Persian identity. A potent mix of religious martyrdom and imperial pride. But history also left them paranoid. In the 19th and 20th centuries, they were humiliated by foreign powers, their oil stolen, their leaders replaced. The 1953 coup, orchestrated by the CIA to protect oil interests, remains an unhealed wound. It taught Iran that the West's democracy is a lie. This history has created a mindset of defensive aggression. To them, the best way to avoid being a victim again is to be the most dangerous player in the room. They are playing the long game. While American administrations change every 4 or 8 years, the Iranian perspective spans centuries. Washington often forgets that it is debating a civilization, not just a regime. And a civilization with a martyr complex is almost impossible to break. They have survived the Mongols, the Arabs, and the British. In their minds, the Americans are just the latest empire to come and go. For Iran, the war didn't start in 1979. It is a struggle for the very right to exist as a sovereign power in their own land. And as long as that pride remains, the cycle of conflict will continue. The forever war isn't just a possibility, it's a way of life. For every U.S. president since 1979, Iran has been the ultimate puzzle. There are no good options, only varying degrees of catastrophe. Option 1, the military strike. A massive campaign to destroy the nuclear sites. But experts warn this would only delay the program, not end it. And the retaliation would be instant. Thousands of missiles raining down on U.S. bases and global oil fields. The world economy would buckle in hours. Option 2, regime change. But the ghosts of Iraq and Libya haunt the halls of the Pentagon. Toppling a regime is easy, managing the chaos after is impossible. A power vacuum in Iran would ignite a civil war that would make Syria look like a skirmish, drawing every regional power into a black hole of violence. Option 3, containment. Keep the sanctions, wait for the regime to fail. But this maximum pressure has only pushed Iran closer to Russia and China. A new axis is forming. Tehran is no longer isolated, it is becoming a critical node in a global alliance against the Western order. Iran has learned to breathe underwater. They have built a resistance economy that is inefficient, but stubbornly functional under pressure. The trust is gone. Every attempt at a new deal is sabotaged by hawks on both sides. Diplomacy has become a theater of the deaf. The clock doesn't stop. With every month that passes without a solution, Iran gets one step closer to the bomb. And the window for a clean strike closes. A war with Iran wouldn't stay in Iran. It would be a global firestorm, a conflict that would define the 21st century as a new dark age. America is tired of forever wars. But the irony is that to avoid a war today, they might be inviting an even greater one tomorrow. This is the impossible choice. War is unthinkable, but a nuclear Iran is unacceptable. And the middle ground is disappearing. In the end, the decisions made in these rooms will determine the world these children inherit. A world of peace, or a world of fire. The game of chicken continues. But in a game where everyone loses, who will be the first to blink? For over 40 years, the world has waited for the storm to break. We have seen empires rise and fall, but the standoff between Washington and Tehran remains. What began as a revolution in the streets of Tehran has evolved into a global struggle for power, identity, and the very future of the Middle East. Is a forever war inevitable? History suggests that the longer a conflict remains frozen, the more explosive the eventual thaw becomes. Scenario 1: The explosion. A miscalculation leads to a direct confrontation. A war that no one wanted, but everyone prepared for. In this future, there are no borders to the suffering. The forever war with Iran would be the first truly global conflict of the 21st century. Scenario 2: The implosion. The pressure from within finally exceeds the strength of the walls. Iran changes from the inside out. A peaceful Iran, reintegrated into the world. A dream that millions of Iranians carry with them every day as they walk past the murals of martyrs. But the most likely scenario is the one we are already living. The infinite stalemate. A war of shadows, sanctions, and software. The forever war isn't just about missiles and reactors. It's about the exhaustion of two nations that have forgotten how to speak to each other. Iran is not Iraq. It is not Afghanistan. It is a fortress, a civilization, and a warning to anyone who thinks war is a simple solution. The centrifuges will keep spinning. The drones will keep flying. And the question remains, when does forever finally end? We are living in the long shadow of 1979. A shadow that has defined a century, cost trillions of dollars, and millions of lives. The fortress remains. But even the strongest mountains are shaped by the wind. And the winds of change are blowing harder than ever. Will Iran become another forever war? Perhaps the real question is, can we afford for it not to be? Stay vigilant. History is still being written.